Okay, so you shared this Fox News article
Right.
about President Biden's decision to close the U.S. government
Yeah.
in honor of former President Jimmy Carter,
Hmm.
who recently passed away
Yes.
at the incredible age of 100.
Yeah, that's right.
It's definitely a unique way to pay tribute.
Ah, it's certainly it's definitely a striking decision.
Yeah,
When you think about
yeah,
it, the historical weight that it carries,
yeah,
closing the government for a former president's funeral
right,
isn't something we see every day.
yeah,
And I think it really underscores the significance of Carter's legacy,
yeah.
at least in the eyes of the current administration.
Yeah, and the article mentions that President Biden signed an executive order to
Right.
close all executive departments and agencies,
Hmm.
essentially all government offices on
Yeah.
January 9th for the funeral.
Okay.
They're calling it a mark of respect, but
Right.
it does make you wonder,
Yeah.
when else has this kind of closure happened?
You're right to be curious about that.
Yeah,
It's not a frequent occurrence.
right.
Um, we've seen similar closures
Go.
for a few other presidents like Ronald Reagan
Mm-hmm.
and George H.W. Bush.
Okay.
These moments are intended to unify the nation in mourning,
Yeah,
encourage reflection.
right.
It's a chance to step back from the everyday political happenings
Yeah.
and acknowledge the shared values that the deceased leader embodied.
The article also mentions that Carter will be lying in state at the U.S. Capitol.
Oh, yeah.
That's a really big deal, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Lying in state at the Capitol is an honor reserved for very few individuals.
right.
It's a way for the public to pay their respects
Mm-hmm.
and really signifies the high regard in which Carter's service is held.
And the article dives into some of Carter's achievements during his presidency,
Yes.
like the creation of the Departments of Education and Energy,
Mhm.
his focus on conservation, and his work on nuclear nonproliferation.
Yeah.
It sounds like he had a pretty packed schedule.
He certainly did.
Yeah,
And while Carter's presidency is sometimes debated,
yeah,
there's no denying that he left a lasting impact on those specific policy areas.
mm-hmm.
For example, the creation of those departments
Right.
wasn't just about bureaucratic shuffling.
Okay.
It signaled a significant shift in priorities,
Yeah.
recognizing the growing importance of education and energy in the late 20th century.
And speaking of lasting impact,
Sure.
the article also highlights Carter's work after he left office,
Right.
particularly his involvement with Habitat for Humanity
Mhm.
and his dedication to human rights on a global scale.
Okay.
It's remarkable how he stayed so active
Yeah.
and committed to service,
Definitely.
even after leaving the White House.
That unwavering commitment to service,
Yeah.
both domestically and internationally,
Yeah,
is a defining aspect of Carter's legacy.
right.
It really speaks volumes about his character
Yeah.
and his drive to make a positive impact on the world,
Hmm.
even beyond the realm of politics.
You mentioned that Carter's presidency is sometimes debated.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on some of the complexities surrounding his time in office?
Of course.
Mm.
It's important to remember that Carter came into office
Right.
following the Watergate scandal.
Mm-hmm.
So restoring trust in government was a major theme of his presidency.
Okay.
He emphasized honesty and ethical conduct,
Right.
which resonated with many Americans at the time.
It sounds like he was really trying to restore faith in the government.
Yeah.
What were some of the key challenges he faced?
Well, despite his best intentions, Carter faced numerous challenges.
Right.
The economy was struggling
Okay.
with high inflation
Yeah.
and unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
And there were energy crises as well.
Right.
He also had to navigate some complex foreign policy situations,
Yeah.
including the Iran hostage crisis,
Okay.
which deeply impacted his presidency and public perception.
That hostage crisis was a major event.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. It must have put immense pressure on his administration.
Absolutely. The crisis lasted over a year,
Wow.
with 52 American diplomats and citizens held captive in Iran.
Right.
It became the defining event of his presidency,
Yeah.
often overshadowing some of his other achievements.
It's fascinating how a single event can have such a lasting impact on a presidency.
Yeah, it really is.
But the article also mentions Carter's work on nuclear nonproliferation.
Right.
That feels particularly relevant today, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're right to connect that to current events.
Yeah.
Carter's dedication to limiting the spread of nuclear weapons was groundbreaking at the time.
Mhm.
He worked tirelessly to reduce the threat of nuclear war,
Right.
and those efforts continue to resonate in today's world.
Yeah.
His work reminds us of the vital importance of diplomacy and global cooperation
Right.
when dealing with threats to humanity.
You're right. The importance of diplomacy feels more crucial than ever. The
Mhm.
article actually quotes a statement from the White House
Right.
praising Carter's belief in the American people
Mhm.
and his tireless dedication to service.
Yeah.
It's interesting how different administrations
Mm-hmm.
choose to frame the legacies of their predecessors.
That's a really astute observation.
Yeah.
The way a current administration remembers a past president
Right.
often reflects their own political priorities and values.
Mhm.
It's a subtle but powerful way to shape public perception of history.
You also mentioned earlier that Carter faced some criticism
Yes.
for his approach to human rights,
Right.
particularly in the context of foreign policy.
Right.
Could you elaborate on that a bit more?
Certainly. While Carter was deeply committed to human rights,
Yeah.
he also had to balance that commitment
Okay.
with other foreign policy objectives like
Mhm.
national security
Mhm.
and strategic alliances.
Okay.
This led to some difficult decisions
Right.
and compromises that didn't always sit well with everyone.
Yeah.
He was criticized by some for being too idealistic
Okay.
in his approach to foreign policy,
Mm-hmm.
while others argued that he wasn't forceful enough in promoting human rights on the global stage.
It sounds like a real balancing act.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Trying to uphold those ideals
Right.
while navigating the complex realities of global politics.
So from government closures to a legacy of service, complex foreign policy decisions,
Yeah.
and a renewed focus on nuclear non-proliferation.
Right.
This deep dive into President Carter's life
Mm-hmm.
and the tributes surrounding his passing is really eye-opening.
Absolutely. And it raises some really important questions
Yeah.
about how we choose to remember our leaders
Right.
as a society.
Mm.
What aspects of their lives do we emphasize? What
Yeah.
complexities do we acknowledge?
Yeah,
These are questions worth pondering
definitely.
as we reflect on President Carter's legacy.
Yeah, what stands out to you as particularly significant about Carter's life,
Yeah.
the impact he had?
Yeah. That's a good question.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, it's his unwavering belief in the power of service.
Okay.
Whether it was building homes with Habitat for Humanity
Mm.
or mediating international conflicts,
Right.
Carter consistently sought ways to make a tangible difference in the lives of others.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
His commitment to service was certainly a constant throughout his life.
absolutely.
Yeah, from his time in the Navy to his post-presidency work.
That's right.
The article mentions that the decision to close the government for a former president isn't all that common.
Yeah, it's pretty rare.
It makes you wonder
Yeah.
what kind of criteria are used to make that call.
Right.
Is there some official rule book?
That's an excellent question.
Yeah.
And to be honest, there's no clear-cut answer
Okay.
or official set of rules. It's typically a combination of factors,
Right.
including the former president's historical significance,
Okay.
the current political climate,
Mm-hmm.
and the wishes of the deceased's family.
So a lot of behind-the-scenes discussions and considerations.
Definitely.
Yeah.
These decisions are rarely made lightly.
Right.
They involve navigating historical precedent,
Okay.
political sensitivities,
Mm-hmm.
and of course the desire to appropriately honor the deceased leader's legacy.
This whole event has really sparked a broader conversation about Carter's life and presidency.
Yeah.
It's like a moment for the nation to collectively pause and reflect. It really does feel like a time for reflection. Reading through this article and hearing your insights has definitely given me a lot to think about. I'm particularly struck by how much Carter achieved,
Right.
both during and after his presidency.
It's certainly a testament to his character and drive. Not all presidents maintain that level of engagement in public life after leaving office.
Right.
Carter really stands out in that regard.
Yeah.
His post-presidency work with organizations like Habitat for Humanity,
Yeah.
the Carter Center,
Right.
and his continued involvement in international diplomacy is truly remarkable.
The article touches on his commitment to peacemaking and conflict resolution. It mentions his role in mediating the Camp David Accords,
Right.
which was a historic peace agreement between Israel and Egypt
Yeah.
back in 1978.
That was a monumental achievement in Middle Eastern diplomacy.
Yeah.
Carter's personal involvement and tireless efforts were instrumental in bringing those two nations together
Right.
and forging a lasting peace agreement.
It's amazing to think about the ripple effects of something like that
Yeah.
decades later.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it speaks to the power of diplomacy,
Right.
even amidst seemingly intractable conflicts.
Yeah.
Carter's belief in dialogue and negotiation as tools for peacemaking
Mm-hmm.
continues to inspire leaders and diplomats around the world.
So we've talked about government closures, his legacy of service,
Yeah.
the complexities of foreign policy, and a renewed focus on nuclear nonproliferation.
Mm-hmm.
This deep dive into President Carter's life and the tributes surrounding his passing has been incredibly insightful.
It has been, hasn't it?
Yeah.
His story really highlights the impact that individuals can have
Yeah.
on both a national and global scale.
It definitely makes you think about the mark we each leave on the world.
It really does.
What stands out to you as
Yeah.
the most significant aspect of Carter's life and legacy?
If I had to choose one thing,
Yeah.
it would be his unwavering commitment to his values.
Okay.
Whether he was navigating the challenges of the presidency,
Right.
building homes for those in need,
Mm-hmm.
or mediating international conflicts,
Yeah.
Carter remained grounded in his principles of peace, justice, and human dignity.
Right.
That, to me, is his most enduring legacy.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
His life and work serve as a powerful reminder that we all have the capacity to make a difference.
That's right.
Both big and small.
And that perhaps, in the end,
Yeah.
it's not about the titles we hold
Right.
or the positions we occupy,
Yeah.
but rather the lives we touch
Mm.
and the contributions we make to the world around us.
Right.
That's something I believe we can all take away from reflecting on President Carter's extraordinary life.
Well said. I think that's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive.
This is my pleasure.